The brutal killing of Karen Gilliland has again turned the focus onto domestic violence. It's a scourge that continues to plague Queensland despite the efforts of authorities, support workers and politicians. In February, the horrific murder of Hannah Clark and her children gave Australia pause. But Queensland police are still dealing with a record number of domestic violence interactions, about 100,000 this financial year. That's despite the implementation of all 140 recommendations of the landmark Not Now, Not Ever report. When that was handed down in 2015, more than $300 million was allocated to ending the violence. But survivors, families and experts say not enough has changed. Some now want a domestic violence commissioner appointed to hold everyone involved, including government, to account. Rachel Rieger has the story.
The beach offers rare solace to Natalie Hinton and Johnny Gardner.
You can just imagine.
Their lives were shattered 5 years ago when Natalie's daughter Tara Brown was brutally murdered.
I still miss Tara very, very much. Bringing up her daughter is a constant reminder of her, and as she's getting older, she's soon to learn the story about her mother and unfortunately her father.
The 24-year-old was ambushed by her estranged partner after she dropped their daughter off at daycare. She was run off a Gold Coast road and bashed to death with a steel plate while trapped inside her overturned car. Her killer, a former bikie, has been jailed for life, but Tara's family remain critical of the initial police response.
She just wasn't taken seriously.
There was a woman running for her life and they were grilling her about bandito details.
The couple run a charity in Tara's memory and say the work is sobering.
We don't think anything's changed at all. We get messages from women on our website and Facebook page describing things exactly the same way that Tara was going through.
This woman, who we'll call Fiona, says she suffered 20 years of sexual, financial, physical and emotional abuse at the hands of her husband.
I questioned every level of my life, so you just feel totally unworthy of anything good or happy.
She called police a few years ago, reporting a violent attack involving strangulation. She still feels let down by the officers who attended and the doctor who treated her.
He made me move my head around a few times and said there's no damage to your neck. He x-rayed my elbow, but all the other injuries, they were like, you'll be fine.
She now suffers vocal cord dysfunction and post-traumatic stress disorder, but says a lack of evidence meant her husband could only be convicted of common assault. Police say the pressures are immense.
Do we get it right every time? No, we probably don't. But what I can tell you is that this year we will probably surpass 100,000 instances where police have had to interact with the community over something to do with domestic violence.
How are we going for today?
In Beenleigh, the Police Domestic Violence and Vulnerable Persons Unit meets every morning. Overnight, there have been 9 DVO breaches.
We were actively hunting him and we knew it would be a little bit too early, and they got him last night, so that was a great result.
We know that about 18% of domestic violence perpetrators are responsible for about 44% of our calls for service. So those high-risk teams really try to focus on them.
The information shared here and with high-risk teams, which includes other services like child safety, is critical.
She hasn't engaged because he's been in the house and she won't open the door. So I've got into child safety she has contact meetings at child safety.
It's a cooperative model being trialled around the state as a result of the Not Now, Not Ever report. Other reforms include specialist domestic violence courts and the creation of a strangulation offence, which has seen almost 1,000 convictions. Now the Women's Legal Service wants laws targeting coercive control within relationships.
The horrific murder of Hannah Clark and her children has highlighted how far we still have to go. If a mother who's going on a school run with her 3 children is murdered in the suburban streets of Brisbane. And if that is not a catalyst for change, I don't know what is.
There's been a lot of reform. That's great, but really a response, I keep saying, is only as good as the most recent homicide.
Betty Taylor has worked to prevent family violence for almost 30 years. She's calling for a permanent domestic violence commissioner like that in the UK to oversee change and help break down silos in the sector.
People could be working quite hard to put out the spot fires but not see, them linking up more to cause a raging bushfire, and that's often what can be in place prior to a homicide.
It's about bringing those systems closer together, talking more actively, acting more actively together to really address domestic abuse.
Natalie Hinton and Johnny Gardner have thought a lot about what went wrong in Tara's case. They say it's time for a shake-up.
We still have one woman a week, one man, woman or child a week dying at the hands of a family member, someone known to them, someone that presumably loves them.
So effectively nothing has changed.
Rachel Rieger, ABC News.